you, Anna, for starting the recording. And some helpful tips. And then again, at the end, there will be questions. Just in case you haven't met all of us, this is our post-award team. We deal with everything from the time the grant is awarded and you get your award notice. Oops, can you please mute if you're not muted? Thank you. So generally you will have worked with, there's Betty and Shelley, and then you have your RFA, depending on what department you're in. The seniors work generally with federal grants, and then Anna is everything that is basically not federal grants. So if you need anybody's, again, general ledger on the web, that is what GLOW means. It is our general ledger for the university in read-only format and is used by the entire campus community. It is accessed through PeopleSoft Financials. So if at this time you do not have access to GLOW and would like GLOW, you can go onto the Accounting Services website and fill out a form, and they will get you access to the system. GLOW is going to show actual financial activity and the current budget by fund and department. So if just, it's stuff that is already posted to the general ledger. If it's something that you know there's an expense, but you haven't submitted a voucher or other thing, it's not going to show up on GLOW. So generally, once a transaction is processed, it takes about 2 or 3 days to appear in the system. Some basics is every account in GLOW has a fund and a department number. For grants, your funds are going to be anything between 25 and 30. So 25 are federal grants, 26 is state grants, 27 would be local government grants, 28 are foundations, 29 is kind of the catch-all for everything else. If it's federal funding but coming through a sub award, so say Central Michigan University had the award, but they granted out a piece to Western, that would probably be in a 29. And then 30 is cost share. And then your department ID number will start with a 70. Grants right now are 703. And once we get through all of those numbers, we will be moving on to 704, probably in the not too distant future. So like I said, each grant is assigned a unique department number after it's awarded. You'll find then you add your object code or the account code to the end. So for example, you might have 25-7031500-4570, which would be for supplies. That's how you'll find things in GLOW, is by those signifiers. Each grant is also assigned a unique project ID name. For example, I don't really know how I would pronounce that, but Advel something Darch is the project ID for 7031500. And you'll see all that when you get your grant award notice. You'll see what fund and department number you have been assigned. The primary report we're going to start with is the summary report. It's going to give you all previous grant budget and expenses from the time that the grant started to basically yesterday is how that would work. You're going to see on there are 3 subtotals for GLOW grant accounts: the revenue, facilities and administrative, and direct costs. And if you add your F&A plus your direct cost, that's going to give you the total amount of your award or the total expenses, depending on which column you are looking at. And I'll actually show you GLOW in just a second, but So here is the GLOW summary and what it will look like when you land on that page. And we'll move over in just a second. The summary report will assist you with answering the following questions. How much has been spent in my grant as of today by account code, budget category, or in total? How much was spent by account code, budget category, or in total as of the end of a prior month? And how much is left in my grant budget and by budget category or in total? So I'm gonna make this, see if I can put both of these on the screen and we'll kind of go through them together. Whoop. So to get to GLOW, you'd go to Campus Community and GLOW. So here we are on the screen that I'm talking about. We're going to look at the summary. No, I'd made that. All right. All right, so you could start. Make this. Here it is. If we're looking at the dates, you can do it in a couple of different ways. There's specific fiscal year, so our current fiscal year, and this is by the university fiscal year, not by your grant year. So you need to keep that in mind when you're looking at a summary, is that it's by the university's fiscal year. So 2024 would be from July 1st through June 30th. If you're going to put that in this box here, 2024. Or you can do a customized period range, which would give you some number of months. Basically, I work in here in the current fiscal year. I don't play around too much with customizing period ranges. In this box here, you're looking at the funds and departments. So you have your specific fund and department ID. For example, we could put in, and I ask permission to use this department ID in my presentation today. So this is a federal account, 703-1380. And if I were to put this in, I would need to then choose which account types I'm going to use. So here's the specific fund and department ID. Here's a quick note. I've never used this, but if you were to put specific project ID, you could go ahead and put in that title for your grant instead of the department ID numbers. But I'm going to switch back here to where we were and then look at accounts. You can do all accounts. That will give you revenue and all your F&A and all of your expenses, or you can do specific account types. This is generally what I'm looking at, and I would suggest you do is do something like all expenses. You can also do a customized account range. The example we have here is if you did $3,000 to $999, you get all of the personnel accounts. You can also do that by going up here and clicking on payroll expense, and you'll get all of the payroll expense accounts. We're going to go back here, you click search, and now we should be able to see everything for this grant. Again, this grant started, I believe, in 2020. So this is all the budget that's been put in. The first column would be your budget. For facilities and administration, this is all 3 years that the grant's been going on. That is the budget. This is all of the expense from the day that it started in 2020 through today. And then, so that's your actuals column. And then what's the difference is your closing balance. So mostly I think you'll be kind of looking in through this here. Grants and contracts inputs the budget based on what we receive from our pre-award side when an award is made. And if there are budget revisions, we will update that for you. The expenses, let's go back to here, I think the next screen. I'll just kind of do this. Everybody can see the slideshow again, I think. Okay. What this will show, again, the specific fiscal year, we talked about it a little bit. For grant to date revenue and expenses, you're going to select financial or fiscal year 2024. For grant to date revenue expenses, if you wanted it through June 30th of 2023, you'd select fiscal year 2023. Again, that's the university fiscal year. And we said some different things about customized period range. You've got your grant to date revenue and expenditures as of the end of a specific month. You could go through, if you wanted to do through the end of August 23, and that you would select current fiscal year 2024 carry forward. I can go back and show that. So here you'll go click this, you'll see the carry forward, and then you can select through. So carry forwards, you could do through October. Click search and you'll get pretty much the same thing. But if you wanted to do something like that, no, have I lost my? One thing, if you're going to use those carry forwards, and this is why I'm going to suggest that you really use the detail if you want something other than just the fiscal year. You don't want to use carry forwards, say from the previous year, because what you're going to end up doing is getting some duplication of expenses that way. So always stick with right now, if you're doing that, carry forward for 2024. Don't go back to carry forward to 2023 or it's going to throw things off. If you want to look at the activity in the grant for just a few or several months or just the current month, it's a much better idea to use the detail report. Again, how it reads, there's the different columns, the budget column, the actual column, and the closing balance. And again, if you look at your budget column, less your actual expenses, that's what's showing up in that closing balance. Some other things about how to read this. So if you go, I think we did just expenses only. Let me update this. If you look at receivables for this grant right now, we don't have any receivables. That means everything that we've built has been paid. But if you look at billing grants, this is everything that has been billed to the sponsor year to date. If we were in the middle of billing cycles, we're getting ready to bill for, this is a federal grant, we're getting ready to bill by next week, then that will generate a receivable, which will show up in here until it'll increase this number, and then we'll see the receivable here as well. And until they pay that, there will be a number in that cell. The next thing you'll see is your facilities and administration expenses. And most of the time I tell people you don't need to worry too much about this. If you know what F&A is, it's being charged on grants that have F&A on every transaction that you have, every applicable transaction that you have. And that's showing up in here. When you're thinking about how much money do you have left to spend in a grant, you want to look at these direct expenses down here. So your personnel will come first. Here's your budget. And here are the actual expenses. So again, the difference between budget and actual is what you have in your closing balance. You'll see your fringes come next. Then travel. Again, you're always going to see it like, here's your budget in one column and the actuals in the next column. And if you go all the way down to the bottom, you'll find your total direct costs. So this is the expenses that you had, the budget that you had to spend, how much has been spent, and what is remaining. Let's see, we talked a little bit about F&A, we talked about direct costs. And again, if you want to see, so if you were to add this amount, the 881 plus the 65,744, that would be the total amount of the award that has been spent to date. So the F&A plus the direct costs is the total amount, and the budget column that will give you the total amount of the award that you would find on your award notice. And in the expense column, that is the total amount that you have spent to date. You can drill down into each of those line items to see what's going on within that fiscal year. I'll show you that in a second. And if there is cost share involved and you have set up a Fund 30, or a Fund 30 was set up for you for that, You can also look at the total grant to date expenses by changing, you can look at that by a 30. You can look at them together, and I'll show you, instead of choosing the specific fund department on the summary report, you would choose the project ID. So let's go, let me show you how to do that. First of all, drilling down, if you go over into this little paper icon over here, it's like get details, you can see mostly what's there is the carry forwards from the prior year. Let's see, if we try. So here you can see there was an entry in July for this particular account. So you can get some detail that way. Let's see, if we do specific project ID, this was the part about the 30s. That's where it's, if we do that, what this is doing, it's combining both and you can see that in this cost sharing piece here, it's combining the 25 and the 30. So if that was of any use to someone to look at it this way, that's how you can do that in the summary report. And then I'm going to move on. I think, well, here's a little bit more. We talked about this. Revenue will show up in 8922. Sometimes you'll see an 8772 also. That would be there if we received a check that we hadn't billed for. Sometimes that happens with that might happen for different reasons. If there's a balance in a 1270 in accounts receivable, that's how you know that an invoice hasn't been paid. If you have something like if your grant uses gift cards or bus tokens or some other thing like that, you would also might have a balance in a 1270. If you do cash payments, you'll see it in the 1270, generally, the part that has not been used. Again, revenue less accounts receivable will equal the payments that have been received from the sponsor. You might want to monitor this at a departmental level. If you have any concerns about revenue or accounts receivable, contact your grant accountant and we can help you understand what's going on there. And then the detail information, that is the other report that we use. Get back over here. Here's the detail. The screen again looks pretty much the same. Here you've got more options for what you do for a date range. But let's go back here. The detail report will assist you with answering the following questions. Did a specific transaction get charged to the grant? Did your voucher go through? Is a person getting paid? You should be able to find that by looking at the detail report. What were the specific transactions charged to the grant during a certain period of time, like the month of October? Did something post in October, or when did that happen? And why is the budget in GLOW different than the original grant budget? This option, the detail report, is also useful for reconciling your internal department records for each grant's activity to the summary totals in GLOW. And we'll talk a bit about that at the end of the presentation in helpful tips. So again, in the GLOW detail, here's what the date section looks like. You have the choice of customized period range. That will give you the detail from the start of the grant to now. If you select the carry forward for this fiscal year that the grant started as the from, and the current fiscal year and month as the through period. You can also get I don't generally do this top part here. Detail for a shorter period of time. You can select the beginning of the month as the from period and the ending month is the through period. So if you have right here, November, that's going to show you everything that's happened in November of this year. You can also do specific fiscal year. Again, that's university fiscal year that will show up. What I tend to use more often is a customized date range where you can actually type in the dates that you want to look at. So say, if you want to know what happened since January 1st, so this is just going to show me January through today, if I do it that way. You can also All right, detail, again, all accounts, that's the next box. If you select all accounts, that's going to show you everything. You can also do customized account ranges. You can do specific account types. That's what I did, where you can pick just revenue or revenue and expenses or just expenses or just payroll expense. You can do all sorts of things. You can also do a customized account range. That would again be if you did like the 3,000 through 3,999, you would just get the payroll accounts. This is usually what I use. I'm not usually down in this area down here. What is this showing you? So when we do that, you'll see a listing of all the transactions within the account code, including payroll, fringe benefits, any accounts payable vouchers, any journal entries, equipment purchases, pretty much anything that has posted to the grant. You will also, if you were to pull the full length of the grant, or if you pull a month at which we happen to do an adjustment to the budget, you will see the changes to the budget codes. So, and then you can see the totals for whatever that time period is that you have selected. There is on our website, under, if you go to the grants and contracts website, under, I think it's like the, not pre-award, but the beginning of a project, that's one of the selections, you will find a PDF of grant and budget codes and actual codes. The general ledger and the chart of accounts is, for the university, is huge. Not every account will work on a grant, and that's a function of, they didn't set everything up to include F&A charges. So like I said earlier, every charge that you make to a grant typically has an F&A component to it. So like for supplies, there may be multiple different kinds of supply accounts. We would use typically the 4570. And then if you use the 4570, you know that the F&A will be charged at whatever the rate was that was set up on your grant. So I always suggest that you refer to that chart that we have, and always try and select, when you're trying to figure out which account to charge an item to, try and find one that's going to most closely, I believe this is on one of the slides, relate to however it was budgeted. That might be in the, might be somewhere here in the helpful tips. So again, we'll kind of run through, and if you do this, you could do a couple of months. And here's just the payroll expenses for that August through, I think I said November or October time period. You can, if you just want to know what's happening again in supplies during that time frame, type in 4570. You could add by code, but just one that popped into my head. You could just see these codes, and it's just going to bring up, I have is the 4570 there. So lots of different things you can do to find the information that you need. Glow will not allow you to post actual expenses to a budget code or to transfer codes. So again, if you see a budget code, which those, yes, they start with 47, you're not going to be able to do a journal entry that includes an account code that starts 47. It's going to give you an error. Those are budget codes and are only used by our department to set your budget up. We also do not allow for the use of the transfer codes 4995, 8995 on grants. So if you, I think the system will let you put the journal entry in, but what happens when you do a journal entry on a grant is it goes on to a report. It doesn't automatically post like another journal entry might. And your accountant is seeing that on a daily basis, and they will come back to you and say, Christine, you cannot have a 4995, 8995 on a grant. So we need to find what is the actual code that we want to use. And sorry that I called you out, Christine, if you're here. You didn't actually do that. Other things when selecting account codes, we just talked about that. Make sure that they line up as closely as possible with the budget code that you're using. So a supply 4570 falls under, 4716 or whatever that is. on that chart that I mentioned earlier again. You can also obtain your budget if you're not sure how it's budgeted and you want to try and do that and you don't have a copy of the budget. You can reach out to your PI or you can reach out to Grants and Contracts and we will let you know what budget we are working from and send you a copy of that. A helpful tip, sometimes we get asked, how do you reconcile from GLOW to what you know or what you have? You should be keeping a separate file, either electronic or paper, for each grant and keep copies of all items that are charged to the grant in that file. Personnel forms, vouchers, procurement card statements, any journal entries or spreadsheets that you have, purchase orders, all of those kinds of things. Those represent commitments, and you might remember there used to be a commitments column that got a little confusing, so they removed it. But those are your commitments, and they may be things that you know that we don't know. It's very hard for us. I used to get asked a lot to reconcile, but I don't know what vouchers may not have posted. I don't know what you've spent that may not actually be on there. All that we are aware of, really, I mean, is what has posted to GLOW. That is what we can answer questions about. And you may, it's just like your own personal checkbook. If you're spending and you're not putting it in your register and someone else is managing your register, they don't know what you're out there spending. Reconcile to GLOW each month, match each item in your file to the transaction in the GLOW detail for the month and check it off. If you see an expense in GLOW, and this is very important and why it's really helpful for you as the PI or the administrative person helping with the grant to be monitoring what is going on in GLOW, because you might see an expense, this particularly can happen in payroll, that may not be yours, because mistakes do happen. So if you can identify this belongs to the Fund 23 instead of to the grant, or something is missing and then you find it's been charged to a different account within your department and really needs to be moved on to the grant, those changes need to happen if they can in a very timely manner so that we can avoid cost transfer issues and all of that. So you should be monitoring your GLOW to make sure that what's on there belongs there, or if something is missing, that we can get it on there. And there is a little pro tip down here, and it doesn't apply to the time period we're in right now, but I will let you know that when we reach July and the accounting department starts their closing procedures, you can't just run, as we were talking about on the summary earlier, at that point, you can't just say fiscal year 2025. If you do that, it's going to look really crazy because there's all these things going on in the background. So that's when you need to use carry forwards for what we just ended, 2023 carry forwards through July. That would have given you what actually happened, what your summary report actually was for July of 2023. It is possible to download GLOW information into Excel. All you have to do is write down at the bottom of the selection is a download results. You click that and it will go into Excel, and then you can manipulate that information into reports or however you need to see that. Just a couple of items before we open it up for any questions that there are. Excuse me, we are, as a group, going out and having remote office hours right now. All of the restricted fund accountants and our associate director, Shelley, are putting in office hours about a half a day a week at these different places. So if you are want to come and see us, we would love to see you. That's a great time to have meetings. These are the offices where we're located. Just reach out to your RFA and find out when they are there if they haven't already told you. Again, we're there right now on a weekly basis, and would love to see you. We are going to be doing like I said, this is the first of these monthly trainings that we're doing through May. These are the different topics we'll have. So next month will be post-award responsibilities. I believe they're all going to be at the second Thursday of the month at the same time. So I hope you'll join us for that. And Anna, can they easily sign up on our website? How do they do that? Oh, she gave a little a link there so you can see how to do that. All right, I guess that's the end of my presentation piece. Are there any questions or anything that I can show you how to do in GLOW? Nobody?
For the TRIO programs, we award grant aid. Could you do a sample of how we would look that up of what's been awarded?
Like the scholarships, is that what you're looking for?
Yes.
Okay. So it's okay if I use your cost center, Natea?
Yes.
You're generally going to find that in account 4101, if I'm understanding you, or 4140. Screen. Search, and if you want to see, this is how scholarships and aid appears. You'll usually see them within 4101. And you should be able to see, would be the person's WIN number and a part of their name. Is that what you were looking for?
Sorry, I had muted back. Yes.
That's okay. That's what you're looking for. Okay, yep, that's where you can find that. So again, you choose whatever period you're looking for. This looks like I still have in August through October. So that's pretty much what's happened for fall so far. One thing I'll just say, we don't bring this up. You'll see this ZD61. If you're doing scholarship codes and you're new, you need to connect with financial aid. They will assign these codes to you. And you'll also find your graduate students, their aid will show up in here too if you have appointed GAs. Sometimes on my grants, I have people that 4101 is like the default. If you want to see that in more like 4140, which would be more like a stipend, or you just want it separated off for presentation purposes for you, that's easy enough to do with a journal entry. So you can just talk to your RFA about that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else?
I have a question. So you may have already kind of covered this, but if you want to look up a certain type of expense, that's where you use the object codes. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, those are the account. This would be the account codes. So if we,
Okay.
I'm gonna just put specific. I'm gonna do non-payroll. Like if you go here, like again, 4101, that's all of their scholarships. And you can see that over in here. So 4357 looks like team travel. 4360, there's your other kinds of travel. You'll find them all by account code. So it's always your fund and cost center followed by the account code. And you can find that list that I referenced earlier on our website will give you all of the account codes that we allow on grants so that it's easy to figure out where things should be or where they might be.
Okay.
Anything, you have another question or?
Amy, well, when we send the vouchers in for payment, the account code is on the end. There's the fund and cost and the account code is at the end. So you can always look up that account code in Glow if you're like looking for a specific thing to see if it's actually paid out.
Yes. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Kayla, did you have a question? Thought I saw her raise her hand, but. Anything else?
To look at the grand total, when you're putting in the carry forward, so if we're in 2023 now, it's always going to be the year that's coming up next that we should use.
Yes, because we call at the university, starting July 1st, we're in fiscal year 2024. So if you want to see everything, I'm going to go ahead and use your. All right, so here's your piece of the TRIO program. You can see everything. This is the total budget that's been input for F&A, and this is what you spent. And this is from, did you start 2020 also? Is that when this cycle started? Yeah, so this is everything from September 1st of 2020 through today. This is the total amount of F&A. this is the total amount that's been paid to administrative staff here. And if you were to come all the way down to the bottom, you could add the 756 to the 57, and that would be the total amount of the award that you have spent between September 1st of 2020 and today. And then if you were to add your closing balances, that would tell you how much you have left through for that grant, August 31st of 2024.
Thank you.
Your carry forward, like I said, everything is included in there from the total for the 3 years.
Okay. And for that, I just need to do carry. I don't have to put in like an end date.
You don't have to, for that, you don't even have to put in carry forward. You just put in this fiscal year 2024
Okay.
if you're using the summary. If you want to see specific, if you wanted to look at, say, a specific object code, say, supplies. You want to see everything you've spent in supplies since the beginning. You would put in how I've done it up here. I would use the customized date range from the beginning of the grant through today, your fund and cost center, and then whatever. You could do all accounts. That would, for a grant of your size that's been going on for 3 years, you might have a lot of pages. And one easy thing, if this has only got 49 lines, if you have multiple lines, if this was active and it was going on more pages, you can use this to like get you to the end of the cycle. But here's all of the expenses through that time, and you could scroll down to the bottom and see you spent $30,000 on supplies since the start of the grant.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? And if you have any follow-up questions after today, you can feel free to reach out to me or to your accountant. You know, we're always happy to help, understand what's going on in Glow. There's also on the accounts services website, they have a training section, and that's more geared towards, just using Glow in general, not necessarily for grants, but they have a lot of little videos that you can look at if there's something specific that you might want to see.
All right, Kayla went ahead and asked her a question in the chat if you want to respond to that.
I have to
And her mic wasn't
find that. Can you read it, Anna? I can't. Where
Sure
did the
can.
chat?
Absolutely.
It's
So
not
it talks
popping up.
about the date range versus fiscal year. And it says you mentioned that you don't tend to mess with the fiscal date range, but instead use the fiscal year. If we use the fiscal year, but our grant cycle does not align, is there a concern that certain expenses would be missed from summary or detail, i.e. expenses that occurred outside of the university's fiscal year, but are part of the current grant award year?
If you're going, if you use that 2024, it's gonna go, that's like, I know in your department, say the Upward Bound grant, that's another one that goes from September 1st. Well, no, it doesn't. It's at June 1st, say of 2020, that might not be the right year, to today. You're gonna see everything from June 1st of 2020 until today. It doesn't matter what the university's year is versus the grant year. It's gonna show you everything that's on that grant. Does that make sense the way I've said it? You don't, I think people I know that the grant year versus the university year can be confusing, but as long as you're using fiscal year 2024, you're not going to miss anything that happened because of an offset in the years. You'll get everything that happened from the day that budget was put into Glow.
Gave us a thumbs up.
Okay, thank you. Well, I guess if there aren't any other questions, we can we can say goodbye. If you have, like I said, if you have any other questions, reach out to your RFA. You can feel free to reach out to me. I hope that you'll join us in December when we're talking about the post-award responsibilities. And if you have any feedback on this session, please let us know that as well. We're trying to make sure that the information that everyone needs is out there for you. If there are any topics that you'd like to see covered that we aren't covering, just let somebody know and we will see what we can do. We want to make sure everybody's managing their grants to the best of their abilities and that we are here to support you. So thank you.
Joy, I have one question. We
Sure.
had some of our grant PIs in psychology that couldn't attend the GLOW training today and they
Mhm.
wanted to, but maybe there was a notice that came out sooner and then we missed it. And so they just asked if there would be another one because they wanted to attend. And if maybe the notice could go out to them more in advance so they could clear their calendar.
Yeah, we came up, we got this organized. It was a little bit last minute. So
But I
we
want
can
them all
talk-
to take GLOW training.
Okay, all right. We did record this session, so it will be available on our website at some point in the near future so that they can always watch that. If not, we can see about setting up another one, or I know Jen is
Awesome.
your RFA. We can maybe she can do something for you. We'll figure something out, sure.
Will you send something out and tell us when the video is available and then I can send them out a link?
Yes.
Oh,
Oh,
perfect.
yep. And that's the link for future trainings that Anna just shared. And yeah, we'll let you know when those go live.
Yeah,
And I
saved
believe that.
I saved that. I'm going to send it out
Okay.
to everybody as soon as the meeting's
Perfect.
over.
Yeah, you can sign up now for everything that remains through the end of May. You can sign up for all of those today if you wanted to. Yeah,
Perfect. Thank you.
you're welcome. Well, everybody, if there's nothing else, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for coming.